Namaste everyone. This is a brief class on how to awaken and engage glute maximus, the glutes. The glutes are three muscles. There's glute medius, glute minimus, and in decreasing size and order. Medius and minimus are on the side of the hip, and they like take the leg out to the side, and they're important for kind of stability of standing. And I'm just now recalling that in the title I put "Bringing Sexy Back." And that was actually a suggestion from my girlfriend. I thought it was wonderful because I work with some clients on glute activation simply for an aesthetic, or at least the initial motivation is the aesthetic reason. And awakening, you can have a really strong muscle, but not necessarily all of the muscle. There is a fullness that you can, a fullness of consciousness you can bring to a muscle. And so like for the biceps as an example, biceps brachii, it's common to have a strong, one of the heads to be strong and the other one not. Or like in the glutes, it's common to have the lower glutes strong but not the upper glutes, which is where you get that really aesthetic kind of round thing going on. Same with the side of the hip. But then here's what's super phenomenal. So we're going to get right into it. Part of the reason why I wanted to share or do this video was because, what's up Carlos? Part of the reason I wanted to do this video is because there's a yoga therapy product that I'm coming out with that deals with the upper body, and it's muscle activations of the upper body. Following that will be a product of muscle activations for the lower body. And it's too much to put it all together. No one would have that attention span, and it's a huge endeavor. So this is one of these kinds of classes that I'll use to integrate the two concepts, because what we're doing has a lot to do with the lats. So we're getting into the lesson now. So the lats are the glutes of the upper body, or the glutes are the lats of the lower body, or however that works. So the lats on one side of the body pulls across to the glutes of the other side of the body. And more importantly, it's the lower lats. So I'll show you on this one right here. I thought I had it planned out. So the lats can really be broken apart into upper lats, middle lat, and lower lat. And the upper lat commonly gets confused with trapezius. And so a lot of people have a lot of tension in trapezius. It's this muscle in the middle of the back, and especially weightlifters. And just so that you know, this class is going to be organized. There's just a little bit of anatomy, so you get that. And my yoga teacher following, people that teach yoga, they get that theoretical thing. And then we're going to do some postures together, and it's going to be really exciting to integrate and really the knowledge into your body. And then we'll round it out with Q&A. So if you have questions throughout or at any point, you just type them and I'll check it at the end. So the middle or the upper lat becomes kind of the trapezius. In the mind, it becomes kind of a confusion between lat and trapezius. The lats are responsible for pulling the arms down and a little bit of arm extension, a little bit of elbow behind the back. All right, brother, cool. A little bit behind the back. And the trapezius does a similar thing, the lower trapezius. It pulls the shoulder blades down and back. And so the middle part of the lat will actually come across the fascia. These lines are kind of connoting fascia or resembling fascia. They go across the center of the back, and they become the internal obliques on the opposite side of the body. So in some of the exercises we're doing, when I'm referring to the obliques, it's very difficult to isolate the obliques, but the lats can help you find that. The middle lat goes across the back of the body. I'll show you on this, on Bill here. So the lat attaches to the inside of the upper arm and the bottom of the shoulder blade, and it pulls across and down almost towards where the lumbar meets the sacrum. But upper lat becomes kind of trapezius, confused with trapezius here. Middle lat goes across the middle of the spine and becomes the internal oblique on the other side of the body, which will go wrap around the body to the far hip corner. So I know that's kind of complicated. But so the lat on one side will come across and become the internal oblique on the other side and go all the way to the hip point of the side where the lat originated. So if it's my left lat, it goes around the body below the rib cage and then back around to the front of the left hip. It's pretty trippy. It's called the spiral line. So That's middle lat. Then lower lat, we're dealing with the glutes here. Lower lat will go across the sacrum and become glute maximus on the opposite side. I don't know if this excites you, but it excites me because I love understanding how the body works. And across the sacrum, the center of the lower back, becomes the glutes on the opposite side. So the lats will not only help us engage and awaken the fuller the glute, because when you find that connection between the lat and the glute, it's the upper glute. And the upper glute is dormant in a lot of people. And so, I don't have my yoga blocks out here. That's all right. I don't need a yoga block. So if you're sitting, and you can be in a chair, you could even be standing next to a windowsill or a table or something, you just need to be able to take, let me go a little further back, you need to be able to take your arm out to the side. Now I don't have a block with me, I could be sitting in a chair, but instead I'm just sitting in a kind of hero position on the ground. One arm would be out to the side, up on the knuckles, and this activation, I already have it on the channel, so if you need to refer to it, I'll link at this below, maybe get a different take on it. But this is a lats activation. The lat is the armpit muscle. There's two, basically. There's the front, which is pec major, and the back is the lat. And so on gorilla knuckles, keep the spine straight and pull down and in with the fingers. We're looking for an isolation, then we're going to add weight to it. We're going to bear weight before this class is over. But we want to first awaken it. And now this is a new concept. It's very helpful to think of a halo around your cheekbone. So at the level, the altitude of your cheekbone, think of a halo and now stretch that halo up higher. Pull the halo, the cheekbone halo higher. Meanwhile, imagine a halo at the top of your pelvis, right below your navel, and stretch that downward. So stretch the halo of the cheekbone upward and the rim of the pelvis halo downward. And feel how that awakens the fuller the lat muscle on the side you're engaging, and pull it all the way down and in. Feel it become the center of the back, and then feel the middle part of the lat go across and around, and feel it become the abdomen. And if it's not coming to you yet, just with repetition, it will. Trust me. Although Brian always says never say trust me, but trust me. And then the lower lat, you're pulsing this arm down and into the ground. The lower lat goes across, and it's going to become the hip, but it's hard to find it here. So switch sides. We're finding what it's not, and then we're going to find what it is. So we're clarifying the part of the lat that becomes the trapezius, the part of the lat that becomes the internal oblique on the opposite side. Then what remains, inevitably, is the part of the lat that becomes the glutes on the opposite side. So second side, lat activation. I pulse the arm down and in. I feel with the opposite hand, I'm feeling the back of the armpit, make sure the lat is pulsing, and ideally the chest muscle, the pec major, is soft. And now I want to feel the upper part of the lat on the engagement side. I want to feel that become the trapezius, which I know I haven't shown you a picture of the trapezius. It's just a big muscle that's between the shoulder blades, and it goes up to the neck and the middle of the back. And so I want to feel the middle part of the lat muscle become the abdomen on the opposite side. Just feel the middle lat. And if it feels like the lower lat, that's because your lower lat is dormant. So what might feel like your lower lat is actually your middle lat. And it wraps around, becomes the abdomen on the other side, and goes all the way to the front hip point on the near side. And then the lowermost lat is what remains. Okay? So we don't need to do both at the same time. If you want to, that's possible. Or refer to the lat video on how to do that. So we're going to go right into a glute activation, and this is the first time I've ever put this on YouTube. It's kind of a peculiar activation, and it'll look and feel funny, and so I'm doing this to myself rather than using someone as a demonstration, because I'm going to have you lay on your belly and basically put your hand on your butt and feel I'm going to give you some cues on how to activate that. So I don't know how best, I don't want to make it weird or anything, but right, I'll just face this way. Good. So I find it helpful to rest my head on my forearm, but I'll pick my head up so that you can hear my voice. But if I were you, I would rest the head on the forearm, and I'll take my other hand to my butt, and I want to start pulsing. And it's literally just the one side. So I want to make sure the other side's relaxed. I want to decondition my body from engaging things that don't need to be engaged. And so I want to feel a firming and a letting go. And in particular, I want to feel the outside of the upper leg bone. So here, I'm going to come up for a second. I need to explain this feature. So if you can look in here, the outside of the upper leg bone, from there down a few inches, that's where, it might be more than a few inches on a life-size skeleton, but that's where the glute is attaching, okay? Let me show you a picture of the glute. So the glute is along the outside of the upper femur bone, and then the fibers go up and in, and it's like a diagonal. It's the lats of the lower body. So they attach to the outside of the sacrum. Okay, so up and in. I'll show you on the skeleton. The sacrum is this kind of part of the spine that's between the two pelvis bones. So two pelvis bones, sacrum, and then there's a joint on either side of this. So the glutes, this is the back of the skeleton. The glutes are the outside of the upper leg bone, and they go diagonally up and in towards the outside of the sacrum. Now, it's also important to know that they're superficial. You see how this is concave here? There's a lot of tissue and muscles that are under glute maximus. So the sensation that I'm about to take you through the activation, the sensation needs to be superficial. It needs to feel like it's on the top. And there are ways to let go. So what happens are the deeper muscles under here are intimately connected to the pelvic floor. They're on the same fascia line called an anatomy train. And so when I take you through this activation, the tendency will be for your pelvic floor to clench. You need to let go of that. Do the opposite. Refer to my video on, I have a playlist on Mula Bandha. And so I take you through Ashwini Mudra, or there's also an Ashwini Mudra video, where you do pelvic floor contractions with your breath, but then on the exhale, or on the inhale, I have you switch it up, you push it out. I don't know how else to say it because a muscle can't push, it only pulls, it only contracts. But you're just super relaxing, opening the pelvic floor. So you want to have that sensation while we do glute max activation. Otherwise, you're probably strengthening the muscles under it. And there's a compensation pattern often, one side or the other, where the glute max is strong on that side, and then the deep rotators underneath it are weak. But then on the opposite side, glute max is weak, and the deep rotators are strong. And so it's complicated to assess somebody, and these activations are how you do it. You teach them how to isolate a muscle, and then you assess, is one side stronger, weaker, shorter, longer, tenser, or more relaxed. So to do a glute activation, I'm laying on my belly, hand on my butt, and I'm going to be pulsing. And I'm keeping in mind all of these anatomy datums of the outside of the upper femur bone, right below that knob, that greater trochanter. Pull it up and in, and I really want to feel the upper edge, the rim, the back rim of the pelvis. And so the frequency of my pulsing here is like a pulse, 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 pulse. But I'm really emphasizing the relaxing in between each activation. And if you need to go slower, then you just go pulse, pulse, pulse. But I really want to let go of the outside of the hip. I want to feel it all in the back. Go ahead and try the other side. And I'll pick up my head so you can hear me, but normally I have my head down. And I want to feel the fullness of the glutes engaging. And now here's what I was explaining with Mula Bandha. I want to make sure that I let go of the pelvic floor. Really open, push out, and just loosen and let go of the floor of the pelvis. That will help you let go of the deep external hip rotators, which are underneath glute max. And then feel almost like a sheath of paper, or it's a very thin muscle, but it's broad. It's like a square almost, or a rhomboid, a diamond shape. This glute, it's on the top of the butt. And then go ahead and try to do both at the same time. And it's an external rotator, so it's common, the knee should start to point out. And you want to make sure you fully soften in between each engagement. And then feel the richness. You might even take both hands and make sure that the fullness of the muscle is engaging equally on both sides, especially the upper part around the rim of the pelvis, especially the upper inner corner.
and just feel the upper outer thigh bone come closer to the upper inner sacrum. And go ahead and hold both. And so we're going to do a kind of locust pose here. So hold both glutes engaged. Feel and make sure that it's equally engaged on both sides, that you feel the symmetry, the left and the right are both. Now point the legs, point the feet, curl the toes, but keep the glutes super tight. And then bring your hands out forward of you. Gently lift the chest, but it's a continuous reach with the halo, the cheekbone halo. Reach long and out with the cheekbone halo as you pull with the hands down and back with the lats. Feel how the right lat is connected to the left glute, and the left lat is connected to the right glute. And pull as you keep the glute engagement so the thighs roll out. Keep the pelvic floor open. No clenching in the pelvic floor. Pull the hands down. Reach the halo of the cheekbone out and take a few breaths. Now pull the hands so far back they're under the armpits, and if you'd like to on an inhale, pull up to an upward dog. Keep the glute engaged. This is key for up dog. That's why this video will become part of the sun salutation playlist. Pull down and back from the shoulder blades. Feel the front and back of the armpits engage equally. Keep the glutes alive. Maybe look up, take a deep breath, and rest, or go through down dog for the counter pose on an exhale. Take a few breaths. Here's an elongation of glute maximus and of the lats. So you're doing the opposite of up dog. It's easier here to feel how the lats on the right side of the body become the abdomen on the left side of the body. And the lats on the left side of the back become the internal oblique on the right side of the belly. Come back to kneeling or seated. So that's really, really good stuff. What we're gonna do is one more kind of belly yoga pose, and then we're gonna get into chaturanga, and we're gonna kind of conclude with chaturanga. Chaturanga is a low push-up position, and the reason why this is yoga therapy. Okay, so we cover a lot of subjects in the title. I say bringing sexy back. Well, pulling the shoulders back and down counters this rounding forward. It's the lats. I almost want to say primarily, there are other muscles, but the lats especially, because the lats do other things that are admirable. For example, on men and women, everybody likes this sensation of broad shoulders, of a tall spine and broad shoulders. So people think that pulling up and out does that, but it's actually, we're looking for a relaxed skeletal posture of tall and broad. And so skeletal posture is a response to load bearing. The skeleton is constantly replacing itself in response to load bearing. And so people who do lots of squats tend to have broad shoulders. But what, they don't necessarily have good posture, so I'm not recommending doing squats. But lats, a shoulder depressor, the skeletal response is a broadening of the shoulder. Now you don't want to go around tense, but a gentle toning there, just 0.1% extra toning for the rest of your life compounds into just phenomenal changes in your posture 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, and even sooner. Not to mention, okay, so that's the aesthetic part of the lats. The therapy part of the lats is when you're weight bearing, the pattern that we've programmed our bodies with due to modern lifestyle has us impinge on the anterior glenohumeral joint. The front of the shoulder gets pinched, and that wears in a not balanced way on the cartilage. So a lot of people that do a lot of weight bearing in the front and don't have balanced lats, which are most people, injure the front of their shoulders. So the lats will help pull the shoulders back and down, especially when we're doing like a low push-up, chaturanga. So there's the therapy aspect of it. On the glute side, obviously the aesthetic, I covered that. The therapy side is it's so deep, and that's basically the theme of the Samyama Part 2, which is coming out in November. Samyama Part 1 comes out October 1st. So we're gonna do another belly pose.
this is unsupported bow, but there's key distinction. So my feet are together and I take the knees wide, but I want the knees off the ground. If my knees can't come off the ground here, then I don't go any further than this and I just go for that. But I want to, because if the knees stay down on the ground, I engage deep external rotators. If I lift the knees, I engage the glutes. Okay? So from here, it's the same reach with the halo of the cheekbone. The whole circle, the circle of the cheekbone is reaching out, and the circle of the hip, rim of the pelvis reaches down. Lifts the knees, finds the lats. You can maybe do a little pull with the hands to find the lats, but then eventually we want to lift the hands. Okay, so it's like a cobra. It's a bent knee, wide-kneed cobra. Keep the knees lifted. Reach the elbows back towards your knees. Put the shoulder blades in the back pockets. Reach the halo of the cheekbone out and the halo of the top of the pelvis down. Maybe you can even reach the hands back. Take a few deep breaths here. Notice how the lats on the left side become the glutes on the right side. And the glutes on the left side become the lats on the right side. And how the lats on the left become the abdomen on the right. And the abdomen on the left becomes the lats on the right. Go ahead and plant the hands under the armpits, point the legs, and pull into an up dog or take rest. Keep the glutes alive. That helps awaken the lower belly, which I'll talk about in a second, and that keeps the back safe here. Then pull down and back with the lats. Finds the back of the shoulders. Keep reaching with, reach with the halo of the cheekbone, and reach down with the rim of the pelvis. And if you'd like to, exhale into the counter pose, down dog. Down dog is really phenomenal to find the lat internal oblique connection. And tucking the chin here into Jalandhara Bandha helps reach the rim of the pelvis backwards and up. Come back to kneeling or hero pose. Okay. So we're at 22 minutes. Let's see. Okay. So there's more that can be said, a lot more that can be said with the glute-lat connection, but I want to give you a little bit of elongation of the glutes and the lats. And so, and also an engagement in a different position. So just cross the legs, and I push the outside edge of the feet down into the ground. So here I can find the lats. Now, the hands go behind me so I can push forward into that. Legs are crossed, I push the heels down, and I lift the knees up, so it's that rotation sensation. I want to push down with the heels, lift up with the inner thighs, and then take the hands behind me and push them down into the ground, finding the back body. Pull the lower angle of the shoulder blade down and in. And switch sides. So it's the glutes that I press the heels, the outside edges of the heels down, lift the inner thighs so that the rotation happens, and then fingertips or palms behind you. Reach the halo of the cheekbone up towards the sky, and the rim of the pelvis, push it down into the ground. And feel the whole back of the rib cage awaken as you pull the lats down and in. Cool. So, I know we kind of break posture to posture to posture, and ideally you want to find the lats continuously, because you don't want your mind to be programmed to be, if I'm doing this or I'm exerting this kind of effort, then my posture is good. But if I'm not exerting that effort, then my posture falls to shit. So we want to, hold on my battery. So we want to repattern our posture so it just becomes a kind of living thing. We're animating good posture all the time. And so vinyasa is really important, how you come in and out of postures. However, because of the nature of this instruction, that's not really possible. What it would need is really like a constant reminder. So constantly reminding yourself of where are my lats, where are my glutes, and that will start to repattern it. And it's also, that's like a teacher. That's what you take classes for. So we will end with this last little connector. And it's simple. It's CatCow. So I want you to think, the lats are spinal extensor, which is a back bend. Okay. So when I go through cat, or this is cow, and I drop the belly in the spine, here's a good place to find the lats. Feel that little tug. And it's not so much with the arm. You're probably engaging parts of the arm that don't need to be engaged. It's the upper arm. It's the back of the armpit. That's the lat, not with the arms. The arms are using chest somehow to pull down. So let go of the arms and pull with the back of the armpit. Now from here, I can find a connection with the opposite glute. So I want to really find the opposite lat, opposite glute. Go ahead and try the other side. Keep breathing. Reach with the cheekbone halo and pull down with the back of the armpits, not the arms. Yeah. And stretch it out. And then last stretch. So come to a seated pose. Cross one leg over. This is half. If you can do a Lord of the Fishes pose, then you can do it like that. Otherwise, one leg straight. Keep your pelvis in line. Just cross the other leg over top. Plant the ankle next to the knee. Twist into it. So we're going to find everything here. Initially, the backhand push into the ground. Down and into the ground so you feel the back of the armpit engage. With the other hand, the front hand, I can pull to find the lat. And this will stretch the glute, but it's also stretching the lat. So you're engaging the lat in a stretched position. So you stretch that whole spiral line that I showed you at the beginning, glute to lat. Now for my advanced yogis, I like to push into the knee. So this is an activated stretch. By engaging the inner line, I release the outer line. So push and resist the knee into the hand. When I find that internal engagement, then maybe I gently add 15% by pulling. Reach the halo of the cheekbone high. Reach the halo of the pelvis down. Deep breaths. And then switch sides. Create space in the back of the palate. Kichari Mudra. Reach the cheekbone high, the rim of the pelvis down. Really engage the straight leg, kick through the heel, push down with the backhand. Now for my advanced yogis, push the inner knee into the palm as you twist. And when you find that inner thigh engagement, then add 15% by pulling. Deep breath, tall spine. Drop the tongue. Inhale, come forward. And this is where you would take rest, maybe a Shavasana, or if you did a seated meditation, if you know any mudra sequences, excellent time to do some hand mudras. But it's always good to lay supine a little bit and let everything relax. The lats and the glutes are really important for posture, and they are sympathetic muscles, meaning fight or flight muscles, but our modern life has imbalanced these to a certain extent. But even beyond that, if you don't have that kind of imbalance, let's say you're fortunate to have a kind of occupation that doesn't require like driving or writing, there's an art and a science to being able to just tap in to the muscle. When you tap into the muscle, it requires a state of mind that's very, very similar to meditation. And in fact, that's why we call it samyama. Samyama is the combined practice of concentrating, meditating, and becoming absorbed in the object. And the thread that connects the three is the same object. So you concentrate on, meditate on, and become absorbed in the same object, which in our case, in this kind of practice, is a muscle, or a posture, or a breath. And this is yoga. So I'll check and see if there's any questions now. Ooh, almost 30 minutes exactly. Let's see here. This is a good idea to have more people subscribe and watch your videos. Wish I could watch it all, but I need to work. Love these. How to press to handstand. Okay. The lats help hold a handstand, but they don't really help press. Has that his playlist straddle press handstand. This one is different than flexing the feet while unsupported. Yeah. The unsupported bow. Different, but definitely gonna try it. Yoga life when you gotta work, but find time to watch this. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So that was gratifying to read lots of comments. And if you're seeing this later, definitely subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Comment below if there's something that you wanted to hear about or you were expecting and maybe I didn't cover it. And DSLR this weekend in Hollywood, so I don't know how many videos I'll upload, but definitely if you're in the Hollywood area, then give me a shout and come out, meet us. It's a big convention. Namaste.